What's up, comic book fans? I was actually just doing the fucking X-Men theme. I am Pete from
I
comic.
was too.
You were doing it too? Okay, that's how pumped we are. Yes. Us two middle-aged men are here to discuss the show that's cashing in on our nostalgia, X-Men 97. I'm with my good friend Brian. Brian, I didn't ask you what your shirt was. Is it Mass Effect?
Yeah, Mass Effect. This is Mordin Solus, one of my favorite characters who from Mass Effect 2 and 3.
Nice.
Yeah, he has this little quote. This is it had to be me. Someone else might have gotten it wrong. It's probably my favorite quest line in the entire series there involving him. So yeah.
Is it done in like that looks like an album cover? Is it like
It's done. It's just kind of like a tattoo style, which is very much not a thing that I would do.
Right.
But I love this character so much. So
nice.
I bought it.
For all of our devoted fans, Brian and I don't have tattoos. Just so you know. If you were to get a tattoo, Brian, what would you get a tattoo of?
I have no idea.
It'd be Transformers.
Exactly.
Oh, you get that? Okay, perfect. Yes, right on your ass, right?
Yes, exactly.
But I was gonna say it probably would be Transformers related, right?
You know, man, I think the reason why I don't have tattoos, and there's nothing wrong with the people that have them. I don't have a problem with it or anything like that. But you know, it's just it's a permanent thing to me, you know. And I have loved Transformers my entire life, you know, basically. But do I want that on me? I don't know.
Yes. Like, do you want a Decepticon symbol like on your chest? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, what if someone that makes Transformers does something horrible in the world, and you just have that on you? You never know, you know.
Brian, come on. Has anyone that's ever made a comic book related thing ever done anything controversial? Come on.
No, never.
Never.
It's probably safe, yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about X-Men 97 episodes 2 and 3. And the first one is called Mutant Liberation Begins. And it picks up right when the last episode ended, where Magneto has taken over the basically Professor Xavier's legacy. Yes. He's going to be in charge of the X-Men now. A lot of the X-Men are not cool with that. But before he even has a chance to sort of integrate into the team or see what the status quo is going to be, Valerie Cooper shows up.
Yes, with a whole bunch of armed guards with potentially that have weapons that could not be affected by Magneto, but not everything they brought with them is Magneto safe.
Yes. That's always a little thing, like a flaw that people make where they're like, oh, we've got plastic bullets or we got plastic armor. But then it's like, what about
the helicopter blade?
Right. There's always some kind of thing. There's, you have fillings in your teeth or something, you know? But surprisingly enough, Magneto goes with Val willingly.
Yeah, that was actually kind of surprising, you know, but he kind of proved himself. Almost kind of winning me over almost immediately.
Yep. Over somebody else, but we'll get to that in a minute. I just want to talk about the character of Executioner.
Yes.
So, do you remember that character at all from the 90s?
Yeah, very, very briefly for like Executioner song, right? I don't remember too much about that storyline, unfortunately, but yeah, he basically shows up here and kind of kicks the X-Men's ass on his own.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing, Executioner's song, he's not in it. That's where Strife pretends to be Cable and shoots Professor X, and it makes all the X-Men teams go against each other.
Okay. Well, then I don't remember him from the comic then.
Well, here's the thing. I don't remember him from the comic either, but back in the day, they used to like either give cards out with specific comics or there'd be like X-Men cards you could collect. And I remember his card specifically.
Okay.
And he looks like his card in this episode. He looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he has a pretty intimidating weapon on him.
Yes. It is a weapon that can depower a mutant.
Yes. So, you know, you and I, we've been talking about our love of the Krakoa age of X-Men. We've been talking about that a lot. I've been reading a lot of it. Did you kind of have like a little vibe of that when they were talking with the UN for like Magneto's trial?
Yeah, because he's talking about the mutant race as a people and like that, and you sort of do get a vibe of that. And I think they do address that in one of the comics that is supposed to be before this. Like they have a comic called X-Men 92, and I think they sort of do the Krakoan age in that universe and that, but I have not read it.
Yeah, ditto. But like so much of this part that I'm reading in the Krakoan age now is like just the White Council, and then there's also a council on Mars, which in the comics, guys, if you don't know what the fuck we're talking about, the X-Men have essentially terraformed Mars and they control Mars too. It's called Arakko, and so there's like two. Yeah, go ahead.
White Council and the Great Ring of Arakko. Yeah.
Right. And so there's like it's like every issue there's a scene where they're talking. And the thing is, I eat that shit up.
Yeah. I love the mutant politics stuff. It's great.
Yeah. So we get mutant. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say just it took my love of the character Storm to another level in X-Men Red and all the Arakko stuff. So
man, you are fucking nailing the transitions today, man. You're just setting up these tickers because I'm bringing up Storm. There's this really great fucking sequence where the mutant, the Friends of Humanity break into the UN building and they attack Storm and Magneto who are there. And
very clearly influenced by a certain real life event here, I think.
Oh, okay. I am glad you brought that up. I didn't make a ticker for that, but and also like we watched this last week, but I was like, man, this is like January 6th.
This was very, very January 6th. The way it was presented, and like there's no doubt in my mind that the scene was shot or filmed or animated in a way to mimic that. And to make them, the people that did it, look like morons.
Yes. And so, like, Magneto and Storm just basically school them, but then Executioner has this amazing weapon that if you shoot someone, they lose their mutant powers permanently. And we have this sequence where Storm, like, comes in and she jumps right in front of Magneto and she gets shot.
Yeah, which for me is very appropriate for how, because they were the two like main characters in the early issues of X-Men Red here. So it's kind of a nice little parallel there. To see Storm make that sacrifice for Magneto, who they were just questioning his purposes really before, but he made a really good impression with his speech to the UN. And I think he does a great job afterwards too. Right here after Storm gets depowered, he kind of almost like crucifies the Executioner. And then he brings up the UN Council up into space, and you think he's going to do something horrible, but he's just like, no, like, I'm not going to do this, and this is what you people do to us, and this is why we react this way, because we're not safe.
Yes, I have to say, Brian, that like the first two episodes of this show, I was like greatly impressed with how essentially they took all the materials of the X-Men cartoon that we loved as kids, and they somehow like made it kind of transcend and like really be great. And that sequence where he has them in the atmosphere and he gives that speech, I think I almost cried again. I was like, this is so fucking good. And he says this one line of like, Charles Xavier expected me to do this, or he wanted me to do this. He had belief in me. And he says, don't let me let you down, or something like that, which is like this great play on words because he's holding them in the atmosphere. I love it. Fucking love it.
Yeah. No, this show is, you're right. Like, we have such a great nostalgia and love from the original show of this because it was so faithful to the comics. But this is absolutely elevating the comics and all that. And it's fantastic.
Yes. Yeah. It's so funny because I'm going to go on Mike Bongiorno's channel tomorrow, Pop Culture Man Children. We're going to talk about the original Superman, and I'm really going to talk about legacy sequels a lot because watching the original Superman, I keep thinking about Superman Returns, right? And how that is kind of like one of the earliest legacy sequels.
Yep.
But then it's not, because it's like, it's not the old actors returning and then like a new generation coming in. And what this show is like that, where it's like, it's the continuation of something from like 20 something years ago, but it's like, you're not like, it's not like another generation. It's just like the direct continuation.
Yeah, direct continuation, and with and without some of the cast and all that. Yeah, it is unique in the kind of a legacy sequel situation.
Yeah, and I think that because we've seen this in comics and stuff, and we've seen this in cartoons. Like, you have certain books like Transformers Regeneration 1, where that's like a continuation of like the 80s, 90s Marvel Transformers comics.
Yep.
Where it's like they just basically like just pick up where the old book left off. Like when you have animation and when you have comics, it's not a matter of age or anything like that. You can just literally continue the story from the last beat.
Yeah, you don't need to introduce a new generation or anything like that. Although they do introduce some new characters here to kind of carry the torch here.
right, like Sunspot and stuff.
Sunspot, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I just really do like, just going back to our point we were saying, is that I think that like this is maybe the rare exception where it's like making it better. It's like this is worth doing because you are telling an interesting story. It's a story that has emotional beats. It's not just nostalgia bait.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Awesome. So how'd you feel about Storm being depowered though?
Well, I mean, this is one of the great Storm stories in X-Men, is that she gets depowered. I don't remember how she gets depowered. It's not this way. I mean, but she's depowered for a very long time, like years.
Mm-hmm. And what? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
All I remember too here is the first one. I'm like, oh, is she gonna go find Forge? And that was one of the things. Like, I was so mad that we couldn't talk about things between this episode and the one from this week, because I'm like, I wanted to say things like that and the speculation with the two Jeans and all that. But
yeah. Unfortunately, recording wise is what happened. But like, when Storm gets shot, they do they cut to her a couple of times where she's just sort of like writhing on the floor and she's almost like crying and upset. And it's like really upsetting just seeing her like that.
Yeah, she has a line like I can't feel the breeze anymore, and it's a really powerful moment there for her.
Right.
Well, which is ironic because she lost her power, but yes, but
right. So then, amongst all this like high drama and stuff, there's this great moment of comedy that you reminded me of when Jean's gonna have the baby and she says he's coming, and then Wolverine's like, oh, he's coming, apocalypse, and like his claws come out. I fucking love that.
Yeah, they've definitely like, I don't remember really laughing all that much, intentionally for the old, from the old show, but they've actually had a couple lines here and there that made me laugh. Yeah, and this is one of them. This is a prime example.
Yeah, I remember like as a kid that Wolverine and stuff would have these like kind of jokes that he would make, but they were like weird reference jokes. He'd be like, like when Cable says that thing of like, it's the wild man of Borneo. It's like, what the hell is he even talking about? It's like, well, just give me 1 sec. What's the matter?
Yeah,
my daughter's getting a book or something. Anyway, that moment's real funny. And so Jean goes and she has her baby, or who we think is Jean has her baby.
Yes.
And then we have another great part where they kind of show the racism against mutants because the doctors won't deliver her baby.
Yeah, they said like, we don't know what the powers are going to do and all that, and we don't have the equipment, and which I sort of get on one level, but still, thankfully Rogue is there, absorbs the memories, and is able to deliver the baby, complete with X-themed blankets.
Oh, really? I didn't even notice that. Eagle Eye.
I don't know. I was like, I saw it later on. I didn't notice it in the scene, but I saw it later on. I'm like, wait a second, did they have a blanket with X's on it?
Yes.
Yes.
The X-Men are almost as bad as Batman with merchandising.
Yeah, merchandising.
So, of course, one of my favorite characters is born from that moment. Nathan Summers.
Yes.
Cable.
Cable is born.
Yes, and it's funny because I was explaining this to my friend who's a big X-Men fan, and I said, okay, Jean Grey has this baby. He's like, oh, well, it could be like 3 different characters. It could be Rachel Summers. It could be, he didn't even mention Cable. I was like, how many fucking kids did Jean Grey have?
Yeah, well, I guess she did have Rachel, but I have no idea. This stuff all gets real confusing for me, and especially once we get to the end of the second episode here.
Yes.
Third episode, sorry.
Yeah, so let's get to that. But there is one. There's 2 more points. No, there's actually 3 more points for this episode I want to touch upon.
Yes.
One, when we talk about confusing and like switching up timelines and shit, there is the Age of Apocalypse timeline.
Yes.
Where Magneto is able to touch Rogue, and they have a kid together.
Yes, but I mean, they also have some history in the regular universe as well. There was like a couple issues in the Savage Land where they kind of have a little thing, and they do try to connect later on. And I believe when the Joseph clone is running around, they have a little fling too.
Oh, okay.
So it is they have a history more than just the Age of Apocalypse.
Okay, good to know.
But it's still kind of weird. Like I can tell, like, Magneto is a character that that survived the Holocaust, and it's
Yeah.
still like really weird that the age gap there, and it seems a little odd and can be off-putting to
Yeah.
some viewers.
No, I totally agree. He's very old in the comics, but yet he has this kind of vitality about him. In the cartoon, I remember they show a flashback with him and Professor X, and it looks like they're in like a totally different country, and it's like a different conflict. It's almost like some kind of made up conflict. Like it's not connected to the Holocaust at all or World War II.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's still this like much older dude with like hot young Rogue.
Yeah.
And they were able to touch, and poor Gambit, he
Poor
learns
Gambit.
about some things. Yeah. So then Storm leaves the team.
Yeah, Storm leaves the team with leaving a very touching note for Jean, which is also so interesting based on the fact that what happens right after she leaves.
Yes. Before the characters can even like process that Storm's left the team, another Jean shows up.
Yes, and it's so interesting that Storm and Jean had this really good heart to heart about things before she lost her powers. It was after, and then she leaves the note for her and asks her to kind of convey the information, but it's not Jean.
That's right.
And yeah. And so at this point, I was kind of wondering what direction they were going to go here. Was the Jean that we've seen, in the first two episodes, the real one, or was the new one the real one? Because this is a kind of an issue of contention for a lot of people with the character of Cyclops. That essentially, he has this child with Madeline Pryor, and then Jean comes back and she just kind of ditches them.
Yep.
Kind of a dick move, Cyclops.
Yeah. And so, everyone talks about how Cyclops is a Boy Scout, and they always kind of say that he's lame and stuff like that, but yet he has this dark side to him, which we've definitely seen a lot more of in the last 2 decades too. But what I found really interesting about that whole thing you just mentioned is that they didn't make it to where like Nathan was Jean's biological kid, the real Jean Grey's. They definitely made it that Madeline Pryor was his mother, which that's very much the comics. But then the rest of his origin, it seems like they've changed the rest of his origin kind of dramatically.
Yeah, and I think that's more for convenience purposes to kind of tighten up the amount of characters they have to have. Because I get super confused with Cable's origin, to be honest.
Yes. I saw you, though, like reading on Marvel Unlimited, that you were reading those X Factor issues that lead up to when he is infected with the virus, right?
Yes, exactly. So it's X Factor, and they have Ship, and there's this character who also looks very much like Jean Grey that shows up, and they probably just didn't want to have yet another redhead in this episode.
Yeah, Ascani.
Yeah.
That's the.
So this is my question. That's supposed to be Rachel, right? Or a different? Is it Rachel, or is it a different version of Rachel?
I would not be surprised. So for anyone that's watching I know maybe John Edwards is watching, and he might know this shit too, but there's some people that might be watching this being like, what the fuck are they even talking about? Just to kind of make it as simple as possible, even though it's super convoluted. Essentially what happens that's different from this cartoon is that in this episode we're about to discuss, in the comic X Factor, Apocalypse kidnaps Nathan, who is the son of Cyclops and Madeline Pryor. He infects Nathan with a thing called the transorganic virus. And then there is a woman named Ascani who's from the future, and she takes Nathan into the future to help him. And then that's how he becomes Cable, like living in this sort of future war. And Ascani could be Rachel Summers, who is the daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey. But it's a Cyclops. Oh God, this sounds so fucking convoluted. It's the Cyclops and Jean Grey from an alternate timeline.
Yes,
and it's not even Bishop's alternate timeline. And then, Bishop. Go ahead.
And then you also got to throw the layer of Strife in there as well somewhere.
Oh my God! Can we just say just because that's how fucking crazy comics are?
Yeah.
Okay. So Ascani takes Nathan to the future because he has this virus. She's going to help him with the virus. Apocalypse gets Nathan somehow in the future because Apocalypse is ancient and he lives until that time, and he clones or either Ascani and her people.
Oh no.
Well,
Yeah, they clone Nathan, just in case the treatments don't work, and Apocalypse kidnaps the clone, which
right.
eventually becomes Strife. Because I think Apocalypse wanted to use like Nathan as a host.
Yes,
a
yes,
body
that
or
always
something
happens
like that.
too. Yes,
Yeah.
he wants to use him as host. Right, right. So essentially, Cable and Strife are clones. They look exactly like each other. And I mean, Cable is the real one. Strife is the clone, and they're both from the future. They both end up in the past too. But all this shit they kind of sidestep in this episode, and they also like just speed through X-Men Inferno.
Yeah, it was super fast.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: did you read Inferno when it came out?
No, I might have read it a very long time ago, and I did not remember. I do remember kind of brushing up on it recently when they had a kind of a newer version of Inferno, not the comic called Inferno with the Krakoa and stuff, but like literally with Madeline Pryor, and it was like a Spider-Man and X-Men crossover. They kind of redo it sort of in after that. But so I brushed up on the original a little bit on that, but I'm still very fuzzy on it. But yeah, they super speed through this.
Yeah, they fly through Inferno. I don't know. See, like this was what I was going to ask you. Is that like, is there how many episodes are in this series?
I believe there's going to be 10 in the season.
Right. So it's like, is it just going to be a collection of a bunch of like one-off stories that kind of tie together, or is there going to be like an overarching thing? Because it's like, how could you speed through Madeline Pryor in like an episode? You know?
Well, we know that the main villain of this season is Mr. Sinister, and that's kind of sort of revealed here. And I think there'll be some. I think they're going to build on that. So I think that the first 2 episodes was kind of to get us back, set the new status quo, and then they can start building on the individual stories here. Okay. So I think like the original series was one of the first series, along with Batman, that had these multi-part episodes really, and that I loved. And there were so many, and I mean, I hated the fact they were cliffhangers and I had to wait a week to find out what happened. But looking back, I love that they had so much room for these stories to breathe, just like the comics did. And I think we'll see more of that, but it probably will be less like part 1, part 2, and it will be more like a straight up connected, continuing storyline.
Okay. Yeah, because and we're kind of jumping around with the tickers and stuff here, but just kind of going with our discussion. So Mr. Sinister is the one that infects Nathan with the techno-organic virus. So that's already different from it being Apocalypse.
Yes,
so then,
Apocalypse did it, yeah.
Right. And so the idea was that, like, in this cartoon, that by infecting him with this virus, somehow it was going to make him, like, stronger than anyone else, which I don't know the logic behind that. But
well, it's the same logic as Alan the Alien from Invincible. It doesn't kill you, makes you stronger.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. And so here's the thing. Because I kind of have to show my Cable love. Like, one of the amazing things about Cable is that he has this virus inside of him, but he also has this incredible telekinetic power. You know this. I'm just saying this for our watchers. And so he's able to keep that virus at bay with his telekinetic powers. But he would be like even more powerful if he didn't have that virus.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was genetically engineered in the comics to be a host body for Apocalypse. Yeah. And essentially, Mr. Sinister is trying to do the same thing here. He's trying to genetically engineer a superior mutant, really.
Right.
And the thing that keeps it at bay here is the fact that they infected him with this virus that just can't be cured.
Right.
No, they did cure it. They did cure it in the original cartoon with Wolverine getting infected.
Oh my God, yeah, that's true. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to look into that more because they do show the phalanx and stuff too, and the techno-organic virus is from the phalanx too.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. God.
I wonder how many people. Yeah, I wonder how many people are watching this and then just like, I've just given up like 10 minutes ago. Yeah. You know. But just to kind of jump around, I was going to say that Bishop is the one that takes Nathan into the future instead of Ascani, and then in the cartoon from the 90s, Bishop goes back to the future a couple of times, and the future changes when he goes back. It's not the same future. So
so at first, the first future he's originally from is one where mutants are hunted, and because President Kelly was assassinated. Then he stops the assassination, President Kelly is a supporter, and it helps mutants flourish. But this virus comes out, and when he comes back, so then now this virus is like, what virus?
Right, right.
And of course you see Wolverine's skeleton in the background because no matter what future it is, Wolverine's dead.
Right.
And then they come back and they solve Cable solves the issue of the legacy virus by having Wolverine get infected. Doesn't matter, he's still dead when Bishop goes back the next time. But then something else.
But I see. My hope is that when Bishop goes to the future, they show the future in a future episode, and then it's like something's messed up and he's gone too far in the future, and it's that sort of that like apocalypse future where Cable and Strife can grow up together.
Yeah.
Like I'm hoping that's what we get.
Yeah, either something like that, or I wouldn't doubt them taking an Age of Apocalypse route either.
Yeah. Well, isn't Cable supposed to be in this season?
Yeah, yes, I think he is.
Yeah. So I think you can't not do it that way. Like Cable has to be connected to Apocalypse.
Yeah. 100%.
So it's so funny because the thumbnail I made for this episode is Madeline Pryor, and we've not even fucking talked about Madeline Pryor at all.
Yeah, so let's talk about Madeline Pryor and how quickly she's just fucking turns.
Yes.
Like everyone's just like, oh shit, she's a fucking clone. Like, whoa, let me back up here.
Yeah.
Too. He's like, oh shit, man. Like I don't know what I'm getting myself into.
Yes.
And she goes off the rails real quick.
Yes.
And then she shows some really horrific shit to everybody else in the process.
Yes. I was eating my breakfast because I'm like, this is a Disney Plus cartoon. This isn't going to have it. And I was almost grossed out.
Yeah. I think the thing that got me the most was Rogue and Magneto kind of melting together.
Yep. Gross, man. What the fuck?
Yeah. Real messed up stuff here. I can't remember what else happens because I was so scarred by that one. All I remember is that, and then some weird creature being in the elevator in front of Beast. That's all I remember, really.
Bishop has a vision too. He sees his sister Shard.
Oh, that's right. And then Jubilee and Sunspot, which I don't remember them showing Sunspot coming back, but okay.
Right.
They have like almost like a ring person come out of the screen or something like that, right?
Right. They're watching TV and the TV comes alive and comes after them. Yeah. But yeah, Gambit, like I feel so bad for Gambit because they set that sequence up by Gambit talking to Morph, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go in the danger room?"
Yeah.
And then it's like he's implying that like Magneto and Rogue are just constantly in the danger room.
They schedule out late night training sessions in the danger room for like 2 weeks straight or something like that.
Right.
And they're probably out on patrol together. Together there. And then there's also the little scene with Morph there. So like Morph sees like a showering Wolverine. It's not actually him.
Oh yeah. That's fucking
like they're definitely implying here that there's definitely implying some kind of weird little crush that Morph has on Wolverine, I believe.
Yeah. Which that kind of mirrors Ultimate Colossus has like a crush on.
Yeah, I got that vibe from that. Yeah.
Morph, which some of the guys that are our age but like can't stand woke stuff or get upset about this kind of stuff. I know a lot of people are upset that like Morph is considered like transgender or gender neutral or whatever, and they're they now. But then
but they're actually not. So I remember reading something about this actually from the voice actor that voices Morph in this. So all these things are true in the profile for the character, but all these concepts didn't really exist in the 90s. So they're actually staying true to that, which I really appreciate. I'm totally cool with all this stuff. I'm fine with it. But I like the detail that they're keeping it as if it really was in the 90s, because a lot of these concepts, like there really wasn't the so much with around pronouns back then, and it's just like that's the way it would have been if the character was like that in 1997.
Oh, that's cool. That is very cool. Yeah, and then the thing is that they go back to their original face, which is it's kind of like this sort of like the Morph that was controlled by Mr. Sinister, where they have these dark bags under their eyes.
Yes.
You look almost like a zombie. And yeah, I mean, with all the Morph stuff, I like it because that is like a very mutant kind of like a mutant mutantism or being a mutant is like a metaphor also for like transgender and the idea of like often mutants have like their name, which is like their power name, and then like they have their name that they say like is their human name. And so I like the idea of like this is like your real self is your mutant self.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like we've seen in the movies that like Mystique kind of has that kind of situation too, where it's like she shows this regular human face, but like her real face is her blue face in the movies. You know, go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, there's that meme, you know, that meme with Michael Fassbender where he's like, show me the real, you know, and it's like perfect. Yeah. Yeah. I'm good. Go ahead. Say what you were going to say, though.
I also appreciate that it has the morph design from Age of Apocalypse and from Exiles that I'm more familiar with, honestly, because I've read so many Exiles comics and Age of Apocalypse. But I appreciate that design and element is incorporated with the character here.
Yeah. So yet we still haven't fucking talked about Madeline Pryor. We talked about like
skip over her again. Yeah, we talked about what she did and not actually what. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's essentially got Jean Grey's powers, and she creates all these visions because, you know, Jean Grey obviously has telepathic powers. She can manipulate people's minds. But like her costume changes immediately.
Yeah, and it's like, where did the theme come from here? Like she's like, I'm the Goblin Queen, but like, what is that like? What in the context of the show it has to do with anything here?
Right.
I know they're just rushing along here. I don't remember how she gets that connection. I know there's something, I just don't remember it because, again, convoluted comic book stories.
Well, I think, as far as I know, and we could do some research on this, but I'm pretty sure that the reason why she's called the Goblin Queen is because she's connected to Limbo. And that's what Inferno's all about, is because she eventually becomes connected to, like, there's a demon that, here's the weird thing. I did actually do a little research on Madeline Pryor. Like, she is an X-Men as Madeline Pryor at one point. Like, after Cyclops abandons her, and she's, like, with Havoc, which is weird. Yeah. You know, it's like Scott is with Jean, but then Havoc's with the clone. I think that's weird.
Yes.
Yeah. But then, like, while she's on the regular X-Men team, there's, like, a demon from Limbo that's kind of, like, corrupting her and playing with her mind. And that's how she becomes the Goblin Queen.
Okay. Yeah.
So they just, like, skipped all that.
Yeah, she gets gaslit for 5 seconds and then turns totally evil.
Yeah. Well, actually, here's one thing that I thought was really cool. She has the Sinister Diamond on her head.
Yes, that was an interesting little fact there. And one of the things too about I found very interesting about how they sped through this here is that we know exactly when Madeline replaced Jean. I mean, she wasn't even replacing Jean. She was her own character. She was always Madeline Pryor. Like. Right. She was someone that Scott met shortly after Jean died in the shuttle.
Right.
When she gained the powers of the Phoenix and all that stuff. So what's interesting is in the comics, we know exactly when all this happens. But here, it's ambiguous. So, like, you know, I'm assuming that Mr. Sinister got the Jean genetic information in the end of season 2 when they're in the Savage Land for the first time.
Right.
And it's some point after that where they were swapped. And I love that they don't know who did what.
Yep.
I mean, it's clear that Nathan is Madeline's child here, but that's really the only thing.
Right. It could have happened at any point in the show.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. And, you know, it could imply that she was the Phoenix.
Yeah, that's the most interesting thing to me is that we don't know which one was the Phoenix. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, basically they're able to get Madeline on their side because she wants to save Nathan. They take on Sinister. Sinister escapes, and he leaves Nathan behind. Then we have that whole sequence we mentioned before with Bishop and taking Nathan to the future. Then you have this really great sequence where Jean and Madeline talk to each other, but this is before Madeline has her actual name. And then she says her name right when she leaves. And it's this much more positive thing. Like, she didn't kill herself. She didn't, like, sacrifice herself. She didn't get killed by Mr. Sinister. She just goes off to have her own life.
Yeah, I really like how they wrapped it into the previous episodes with Jean wanting to just leave the X-Men with Scott and start a life. And she kind of gets to do that. It's a little bit more sad here, but it is more of a positive spin than the comics were.
Yeah, exactly. Because in the show, Cyclops walks out. He just can't believe that they're going to send his kid to the future.
Yeah, and somehow that's still better than how it happens in the comics.
Yes. I mean, I'm really excited to see what the fallout is with the next episode. But the last thing that we see, the very last scene, is Storm meeting present day Forge.
Yes, Storm in her classic Mohawk X-Men costume meets present day Forge, who we've only seen in the future in this show so far.
Right, and he says that he's an old friend of Charles Xavier.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool because they're clearly in Texas too. I mean, there's a Texas flag, and they say something about like the weather in Texas or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I live there, you know. And then there's Forge. He's probably gonna build a machine, you know. But you know, I'm just excited. You don't have any idea of like what the next episode entails, right?
No idea. Okay. They don't really show episode previews or anything like that, so I have no idea. Well, there's the wait. But I'm loving the show so far. Even with, if you want to consider the speed round of Inferno as a fault here, like I'm all here for this. This is fantastic, and I can't wait to see what they do with the rest of the season.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way as you. Surprise. And I think we have already mentioned this, but this is like my favorite Marvel Disney Plus show they've had.
Oh yeah, hands down. This at the end of this, we're gonna rank all the Disney shows. This will be number one for both of us, no doubt.
Yeah, for a while. And I don't know.
You're gonna have to really fuck something up for that to change.
Oh my god. I wish I had a joke loaded for that, but I can't even be that creative. But anyway, that was a good point to make there, Brian. So that's us doing 2 episodes of X-Men. We'll be back next week where we will cover the season finale of Invincible season 2, and then we will cover episode 4 of X-Men. Yeah, man. So until then, you mutants can like and subscribe,